you never ever have enough time to play at all. You know everybody wants to walk in someone else's shoes. Everyone's forgot who they are. Such a crime to waste his time away.
Hello, and welcome again to Auto Creek and Rio Grande. This is the 5th installment of my Benchwork series. And what I'm getting ready to do now, I'm going to take this spline here off because none of the spline is glued yet. And I'm going to take that riser out and I'm going to lay in plywood here and start doing a little bit of track testing, I guess you'd call it. I'm going to see exactly where my track plan is going to end up on that sheet of plywood, how it's going to interface with the radius coming in and the radius going out, and just kind of get a feel for what needs to be done there. So I'm going to get started on that. Well, welcome to Silver Gulch. So you can see what I've got going here. And it's working out pretty good. It's very close to how the track plan is. It actually is a little bit better, I think, because I was able to push these switches back and I have like 60 inches between here and there. So one full train should be able to easily fit on this here, and then I can run around and switch the facing point industries as I operate. Now there's one slight thing here, and that's this switch right here. And I'll make mention that all of my track planning was done with code 75 Pico HO scale track in the DAW. So obviously I'm not using Pico code 75 HO track. I'm using micro engineering code 70 with fast tracks turnouts. So there's definitely going to be some differences. But what I'm going to attempt to do is with this switch, this is actually the printout of the template is actually an HO 60 outside radius and a 33 inside radius. And it fits really nice in here. I'm gonna see if I can build that on top of the template, only do it with narrow gauge. And if I understand right, by watching Split Rock and Boomer, if I start with the points and work from the inside out, I should be able to build that with track gauges on top of the template with no fixture. And you know, I've built enough of these now that I think I might be able to do it. I'm sure gonna give it a shot. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, I feel pretty confident that I can put in either a number 6 or a number 8 right here, and it'll still work without any issues. So the next step is to kind of figure out exactly what I want to do with the plywood. This track is 10 or 12 inches longer than it needs to be, I think. And you know, I think I'm going to kind of mark where I'm confident all of the cross joists will be, so that I'm not interfering with any of the turnouts. And once I get that figured out, I think I'm going to cut this about where this track ends, which should be somewhere around 24 inches, give or take. I might go a little bit longer, like 30 inches, just in case. And then once I get everything cut, I can go ahead and get it up in the air and figure out how I'm gonna interface each end with the spline and then continue on until I get to where I'm going over here at what will be Forks Creek or Fork or something. It's not gonna be Roaring Fork because I can't say Roaring Fork. It might just be Fork because I think Fork is a cool name. For the record, I never claim to know what I'm doing. So I'm at a point now where I've done a lot of work and have kind of figured out that, like I mentioned in my previous video, what I should have done is just created a straight box right here and then another rectangular box that connected to that box. I think my life would have been a lot easier. Because things are just, they're a little quirky at the moment, I guess is the best way to say it. So you can see I've got my two L-Girders put in here, and I didn't measure, but they're pretty narrow, and the reason why is because I had to come up with this in order to get a leg to sit in there kind of where I wanted it to, because this L-Girder here doesn't line up with that L-Girder there where that leg is. So by default, I ended up with a really narrow span there across the two L-Girders. Now, strength-wise, that's no issue because my joist coming across, I'm figuring the longest one will be 24 inches because I'm gonna cut away all of the unnecessary, unneeded plywood where the town is. So I don't think I'm gonna end up with, you know, more than 6 or 8 inches extending beyond this side of the L-Girder and maybe at the most 10 inches on the other side. So where the issue comes in is access. You know, if you need to get up into your electronics or anything underneath there, right, the way it is right now is really not optimal at all. So here's what I'm thinking I'm gonna need to do. I'm gonna slide this down this way, right in here, cut this L-Girder here, and then move it back this way. And then of course I will have to have another leg here and another leg here, so that I've got a narrow span here where hopefully I won't need as much access. And then this L-Girder, the longer span, will come back this way. And you know, at this point, I'm not sure where my electronics will be. I'm actually considering putting them in a remote location underneath the layout and then running wires up to them. I haven't quite figured that part out yet, but just like I did with the staging yard, nothing up here will go in until after I've laid the track and all of the electronics. So, you know, the idea is that I will never have to get up in here in case something breaks or needs replaced. So, but I'm still gonna think about that access. There it is, boys and girls. Took a lot of effort, but I'm pretty pleased with the way it turned out. The plywood here has a little bit of a cup in it. And, you know, I turned it to where the cup was up. And so I got these tie plates here holding it down, and it kind of leveled out. I'm hoping that that will take care of itself over time. Which, you know, when I actually go to screw everything in, because it's not at the moment, that should help take care of that, even if I have to get some metal tie downs for that in, because, you know, it was throwing everything off level. Right now with the tie plates on, everything's really level lengthways. There's ever so slight of a downhill slope towards the front on this end, which I don't think it's gonna cause me any problems, and then I'm pretty much dead level on this end. So I think that's all I've got time for this weekend. It's been a pretty good weekend, pretty productive in my opinion. So I have no idea if I have 20 minutes of video, 10 minutes of video, or 45 minutes of video. So whatever it turns out is what it turns out. Tune in next time and see more bench work. Thanks for watching Otter Creek and Rio Grande.